The
I
delay only
hear it.
looks like it's maybe 5 or 6 seconds too.
Okay. That's not fine. Okay. Oh yeah, so Christy is actually she commented on oh, she's here. Never mind. Ah, okay.
I'm viewing it on my phone too.
Okay, good. I was just trying to get it up so that way we could, obviously see if people have questions, but I am having some technical issues to
As
say the least.
expected.
So for those that have just joined or joining, I'm streaming it from my personal page because my photography page for some reason won't show up in Zoom, so I have to troubleshoot that and we'll figure it out. We'll get it figured out. But for now, because for lack of time, we're just gonna stream it from here and hopefully get your questions answered and all that fun stuff. So voila. Um, I don't know if they can see you or not, but um,
Good question. I think it goes to automatically who the person talking is.
okay, all right, that's fine. As long as they can hear you, it's good. But so I'm here with my good friend Christian Harris of Space Weather Trackers. He's waving, but you probably can't see him. I- we
Oh,
we decided a couple months ago that we wanted to do like this little tag team, let's talk about space weather type thing. And then life got in the way. I've had some medical issues to deal with and that fun stuff. So we decided to take on this as a first kind of rough draft, and we're gonna just roll through some of the things that have happened and what we think might happen, all that fun stuff. And hopefully between the two of us, we'll make this somewhat entertaining. Uh, yeah.
I think that's doable.
Yeah, so long story short, I'm happy to have Christian here and we'll have him share his screen because he's got all the data up on his screen. And then let me know on the phone if when the screen gets shared, if it shows that or if I have to go in and tell it to share it. Um,
Okay. It should come up. I'm gonna go ahead and pull the
yeah.
share up now.
Yep.
We'll see if, well, let me get the right pages up. That would help first. All
And like
right.
I said, I brought my best sweatshirt for this.
What is it?
I brought
I
my
forgot to ask. Oh,
Minnesota.
Minnesota. Nice. Accurate given the, I guess, UMAC sharing part of it too. All
Yes.
right. There's
Yep, yep,
me.
yep. So can you see the screen?
Yes.
Okay,
Screen
all
is
right,
visible.
good. All right, so that's the technical issue number, I don't know, we got five or six right now. At least that's working.
3 or 4 is what I'm counting on.
Yeah. So we got our screen up. So the first thing we're going to talk about is what happened on Friday. It was Friday, right? The
It
7th?
was Friday, the actual Friday night into Saturday morning.
Okay, yeah.
So for us
Um,
in the East Coast, at least.
yeah, and this was the transient event, which um we're kind of attributing to a CIR slash coronal hole region, but there's a possibility there could have been something embedded in it. So I have Christian here. He's brought up the data so we could look at it and kind of show you why we were thinking such things.
Okay. So I don't know if anyone else knows this as well, but it's pretty helpful to share. If you're on the space weather prediction website with the real-time solar wind data, there is a section down here in the series where you're able to type in any date and any time, start and end time. So you're not just limited to 24 hours, 3 days, and be forced to essentially have the past to now. You can pick your times. You can also pick what kind of things you want to look for. If you want to look at just the magnetic field, if you want to look at the speed, temperature, all that fun stuff. For basics, I went ahead and just started it from the about 800 UT on the 7th. So that would have been Friday afternoon. Big-ish. No, that's only 5 nanotesla more. Never mind. An impulse was seen about then, about 10:45. Um, really, the solar wind data kind of went choppy. Discover and ACE both had their own individual issues through this. So I'll be honest, I'm not sure which ones of the solar wind speeds are more accurate. Discover seems accurate, but it also drops off some areas, whereas ACE, which on that note, you are now able to control which spacecraft
Yes,
you're looking at.
that's cool.
This has been a very useful feature, especially when it has not auto switched over.
Yep,
But if you switch to ACE, we've got this entire period of bad data here, which means
yep, yep.
nothing. This all looks pretty accurate itself. I'm going to go ahead and assume that ACE is a little bit better here than what Discover is, minus this little gap. But the idea is, oh, did it take away my zoom too?
Your Zoom?
Let's see.
Oh,
The
right.
my date and times, yeah.
Oh, yeah, yeah, where you could just zoom in. I see. Yeah.
There we go. Okay, but yeah, there's an impulse there. A lot of people, or at least I'm seeing even Star Space Weather Prediction Center. There, I think there were a couple other agencies that also recommended that it was some sort of CME transient. What I wanted to do was look specifically through HelioViewer. I've got the AI 211 pulled up. And did I do the right dates on that one? No, let's go backwards a little bit. But basically, there was a thin coronal hole. It's a transequatorial coronal hole that was showing up. It did look like it was visible enough and there enough to still be geo-effective once it hit towards
Yep.
Earth.
Especially
So
when
I'd say
when you hit the edges where the CIR, what co-interaction rotate
region.
region. Yeah, co-interaction region. For those watching, that's what a CIR is. And it's the edge of that the boundary between the slow and fast solar wind, so it can mimic a CME. And that's where a lot of that confusion comes in. But like this has, I mean, there's gonna be a boundary there, but if you look at it, it's quite small. Like there's not much to it.
It's basically a line.
Yeah. So
I
it
mean, it's
can
a line that curves a bit.
so it's easy to dismiss. But there is a portion of it that's in the Earth strike zone. So that's
And it, let's see, would have been Earth facing about here-ish, which give it another day or so. That puts it about the 7th,
Mhm.
later on the 7th, which is about the same time that this impulse is coming in as well. I'm also seeing in, and this isn't really commonly used to look at, but if you're looking at the phi angle, that tells just the polarity of what solar wind is coming in. This was a positive polarity coronal hole. Take my word for it. I don't actually have the chart up for that, but
It
that
was on
means
the
maybe away.
synoptic map. They labeled it on the synoptic map. So
Oh, that helps a lot too. I'm also going to pull up Star. So I don't use this
yeah.
website as much anymore, but it is an extremely useful website to get, especially coronal hole polarities if you're, I guess, lazy and haven't looked at uh the Carrington maps.
Yeah, I like looking at those because that's I'm not quite sure how to like differentiate that right now. So I'm like, oh, look at a map. I'm like somebody else labeled it for me.
So let's see. That was from the 8th. Let's go back to the 4th.
And
So
for
that
those,
little one here.
yeah. And then while he's getting that up, so for those of you that are familiar with the Russell McPherson or Russell McFerrin effect, in the springtime we want a negative polarity coronal hole. And then in the fall, you want it to be positive, just by the way the solar wind couples with them. So having a positive polarity solar hole, coronal hole doesn't help
I
us.
like that.
It doesn't help us in this case. But we are also close to the solstice, so that effect is waning anyway. They just don't have as much of a punch anymore. So anyway, that's the little sidebar.
Which you were not going to get much of a punch from this one either. I
Yeah.
mean, it's so tiny anyway. But yeah, the point is blue here polarity is our positive polarity. So we would expect phi to go in a primarily away orientation, which it did mostly switch over once this started. I'm going
Yep.
to zoom out quite a bit more, so it might get a little awkward looking here. But that way we can kind of gauge what the solar one was doing much before that.
Yippee. Maybe.
Maybe, possibly. Well, let's get rid of the same times. Maybe that's why.
I think you're on 7 days already.
June 3rd. Why is it going?
It's not
It
doing
looks frozen, if I'm being quite honest.
okay. But yeah, I mean, regardless, it was positive polarity. I don't,
There
but
we go.
yeah, there you go. Yeah, yep.
So we had a negative polarity all through here, and then as soon as we start seeing the impulse, and it was a small impulse and then a steep uphill trudge, including speed, including density. It wasn't exactly what I would call an impulse, but it was pretty close to that. That's pretty characteristic CIR. Density rose quite a bit, but then everything dropped extremely fast. And we're seeing now the solar wind is starting to move into the away orientation more here, and then it becomes primarily away throughout the rest of the time. I want to say the peak would have been minus this weird gap here. This is when density started dropping low. Obviously, another sign of a coronal hole as well.
Mhm.
6, 8, 900 UT looks about to be the peak of what the solar wind speed would have been, and then that has since decreased to back to
Yeah.
nominal levels.
So anyway, that's in a short. That's where we came up with this was probably a CIR coronal hole influence. Um,
More than likely, at least.
yeah.
Now, of course,
Yeah.
there could be a transit hidden in there somewhere. This isn't the cleanest coronal hole look that I've ever
No,
seen.
no.
But solar max and a tiny coronal hole, I don't think we would see very much anyway.
But on that note, it was that impulse there was actually enough to drive a G2 level
G2, yeah.
it sighting, impulse or I can't do words right now. But
Words are fun
we
today.
saw a G2 briefly.
And unfortunately, and of course, that happened during the day and afternoon for us in the
Yeah.
US. So not like it mattered very much for Aurora at night. I believe there was some overnight Aurora
Yep.
near the Canadian border, though.
Yeah, there was I think we kind of talked about this a little bit in the UMAC group, upper Aurora Chaser group. Because once you get a substorm going, it's got to burn out. So people got to see them before, like right before it got dark, but then it kind of like went back into that diffuse band that you typically see before it kind of just went away. So for those that were out there watching and they were confused by, seeing all this positive BZ and like, why am I seeing Aurora when you have positive BZ? Well, it still has to go through its process and fade back into recovery. It's kind of like I always bring up the flywheel effect. Like, if you spin a flywheel and then take the input out, it's still going to spin until it, you know, calms
Runs out
down.
of energy.
Yeah. So that it would be why, you can see this positive polarity, but you're seeing aurora. I mean, but if you look at the type of aurora you're seeing, it's not the pillars and the crazy dancing. It's more of the diffuse band, which is what I was seeing on the webcams. So that's going back into recovery. Yeah.
Always fun there. And I know at least on Twitter there was quite a few people that were like, ah, this can't be a G2 warning. That look at the BZ, it's been north for like 40 minutes, and that's really irrelevant when you've got substorm conditions going on, especially when it's some sort of shock arrival.
Yeah. It's going to take a little bit for it to calm back down. So in a nutshell, that's what happened. But then later that night, we had this well, we're gonna talk about this quite gorgeous eruption that was on the limb from our favorite sunspot that brought us all that aurora last month. It gave us a parting goodbye.
And
It,
that's to say the least.
yeah, and it's quite something. He'll play it here in a second so you can see it, but it's quite a beauty. And then
Oh,
we're gonna get into talking about the what may happen from this, because even though it was on the west limb, it had a wide enough shock that we might actually see some of this. So
so Heidi also mentioned that they had some decently bright and high pillars during the early evening
yeah,
times.
which
So
would
I'd say right around the time that calmed down.
yeah, it would definitely correspond with that. Yeah,
Okay, so
it was they
looks
were
like we can
lucky to
see.
they were lucky to see it because the other thing we're dealing with right now is how long the days are.
Welcome to summer, everybody.
Yeah. So timing becomes extra crucial.
All right, so video we're looking at, this is a composite between the 171 channel, which looks at the hot plasma and the corona with all the coronal loops, and the 304 channel, which looks at the chromosphere lower down, which gives you the filament detail and basically is similar to what you would see in an H-alpha telescope. Combining them is a really cool effect because you get all the like filament eruptions and the launches from the lower atmospheres in the sun here, but then you get to see the coronal loops break away and reconfigure once they're on the limb. So I'm going to run it a couple different times. Just let it run on repeat,
Yeah.
honestly. That would make
Let it
sense.
run. This is cool. It's like I saved all the images because like poof.
Yeah, it was a nice giant explosion. Let's
Yeah.
decrease the FPS here a little bit. Now,
They
this is using GOES, the AII, well, in this case, it's SUVI imager here,
it's got
just
a
because that
wider
has a wider view. Yeah.
yeah. But yeah, look at that. And what's cool on the limb like this is you can really see these features, whereas when they're earth facing, even though we want them to be earth facing, you don't get like all this detail like this.
I'm going to zoom in on this part. Actually, here, let's do this. I'm going to switch over to AI. Do I have that one up? Ooh. All right, I didn't open that one up, but I want to see the details. You can actually see the core of the CME leaving. It's only in, I think, 2 frames,
Yeah,
but it is a wonderful sight to see on there. Thankfully, this isn't too long, so it shouldn't take too long to load.
no worries. We'll only bore them for so long.
Well, the idea is to make it shorter too.
Yeah.
Like I said, it was there, just not visible to sunlight at all. Yeah, that darn sunlight. Unfortunately, summertime. It's
Yeah,
just not very good when it comes to Aurora.
yeah, but you know what? On a plus side, at least we can see it down here. If you're up in the Arctic regions, you're kind of out of luck right now. It's just all day, all daylight, all the time.
Ugh. I need my night. That doesn't sound very good at all.
Yeah.
All right. So for this combo, so now I'm switching to SDOs. It's a much higher resolution, so you can see everything in a lot more detail. They don't really blend very well, so I like switching the 171 color scheme to 304. That way you get a little more of a blending in the
Yeah.
features. So let's lower that threshold down a little bit.
Weird to see it in the different color scheme
There we go.
that I'm used to seeing it in.
I know, right? Or like, I mean, honestly, let's just for fun then, let's do 171 scheme for those, just to get that golden color.
Yeah. The gold sun.
But in this case, so I'm gonna stop the frames as soon as you can see it. So obviously you've got the sweet fountain eruptions here up to the north,
Oh yeah, look
and
at that.
then what sneaks out, right about,
Like, where
oh,
are
did I
you?
miss it?
Where?
It was only a few frames, so it's pretty
Yeah.
hard to see. Let's jump back just to 304 for now, because that's where it's gonna be easiest. Ah, there it was.
Yeah. Oh yeah. There it is.
And then do one more frame.
Yep. Look at yeah, it's so cool to see that.
Pew!
And the limb you just see it so much better on the limbs. It's
Yeah,
really
those are my favorite eruptions. Obviously, they don't mean too much in the sense of Aurora, but they're just absolutely beautiful.
yeah.
So
Oh
here we go in a little bit of slow motion here. Let's move it over to the side.
yeah,
Ugh.
poof. Poof, there it goes.
And then with the 171, you've got some pretty cool coronal arcs up here, and you get to watch those break. There we go. Let's view up the current a little more.
And this was what an M9.7, right?
9.7.
Yeah. So it was almost
Very, very
almost.
close to an X.
Yeah.
I was surprised it honestly had it in it. I want to say it's been silent for what, 5 days?
Yeah, it was pretty active kind of coming in, and then as soon as it traversed in front of us, it was like radio silence.
Nothing. Well, it heard about all of the media
It
attention and it
did.
was like, I'm
Or
done. I've
yeah,
had my rotation.
it was like, no, no, you're not having this. You're not having this day. But you know what's funny is like this possible glancing blow from this it is slated for what, June 10th, which is
June
a month.
10th, about 1000
Yeah.
UT roughly is what I'm seeing for an average.
You know that's exactly a month from the May event, right?
Oh no, I didn't realize the correlation there. Well, unfortunately, it's not going to be
Yeah,
anywhere close
it's
to what
not
that's
gonna
going to
be
be.
like the May event, but it's kind of funny that it's exactly a month later. Like, well,
We're
well,
getting that consistently lately.
yeah, like we had March 23rd, then April 23rd. So now we got May 10th and maybe a June 10th, but I don't think March 23rd and April 21st, 23rd were both very, I mean, I know April 23rd did hit G4. I've seen
We
debate.
hit one period, I think, of G4 for the March show as well. They
I
were
think
both
so too.
G4s.
But it's like I read different things and it's like it's like they just left it at a high level G3, but I want to say it clipped over into G4.
Honestly, that's where I'll just be like, all right, let's just start using DST values. That way we're getting something absolute.
Yeah.
And I mean, it made it past minus 100 nanotesla, but I don't think it made it much further than that, like 112. And then we had a little over 200 for the April one.
Yeah, the April one was really good. And then what was May 10th was like minus.
Almost double,
Yeah.
414.
I wish I could have enjoyed that event a little bit more, but it is
Health
what it is.
problems are the perfect timing. I'm really happy St. Kelp was there, though.
I know it was
Kind of saved everyone there.
yeah, I'm glad he was too, because I wasn't gonna go anywhere. But then then again, I we didn't it sound looks like we didn't have to go anywhere, but
Yeah, I saw shots everywhere in all the cities. Chicago, even. Was that your house? Or was that
yeah.
just a Chicago suburb?
Yeah, it's in the Chicago suburbs, but it was right over the house. And this is a Bordeaux 9, so it's like the brightest of bright location you can be. So that just shows you how much more powerful that particular storm was. However, we've had many, many, many storms in the past that have been way, way bigger than this. So contrary to what some news reports are saying about it being like the biggest in 500 years, no, that's not even that's not even remotely true.
Or yeah, where did they get? Or even 100 years? I
Yeah.
mean, almost 21 years is the limit we get. Which, or anyone that didn't know, this storm technically beat the Halloween storms of 2003 by a little bit.
Yeah, that's mid.
I still haven't looked into why this one isn't as well known, but then there was a November storm that next month and later in that month, that wound up being minus 430 or something. It was a little bit stronger than this current one, but you don't really hear about that.
Yeah, not really.
I'm
So,
wondering why.
yeah, I've often wondered what their thresholds are for that. So maybe that's a question we can ask them.
That honestly would be good.
Yeah. So anyway, back to this.
Yeah, so we got the eruption going on. So as far as expectations are concerned, it definitely looked like a full halo to me if you can get past all of the snow from Glasgow, which I also happen to have that view as well.
Yeah, we got a really decent radiation storm out of this. For those watching, radiation storms, they don't do anything for us aurora wise, but they're a problem for, like, as you see all the snow on the screen here, for electronics or anything that's in space. Though that's it being recorded as a like a photon. On the sensor. So it's just it's pretty bad for all of our electronics or people even like people that are up in the space station. It's not a good day, not a good time to be up there or transatlantic flights going over the poles.
Vincent,
Yeah,
he's not
poor
here, but
Vincent. Um, yeah, it's a problem for that. So but not so much for aurora chasing, but just to make that distinction there.
there
So
we
we
go.
got a we
Okay.
got a good radiation storm out of it. But yeah, so we'll try to get a look at the CME here. But yeah, you can it's hard and this is the other problem with radiation storms. So when you get all this snow on it, now you're losing detail. So where's the CME and where do you know where the boundary is? It starts to get hard to find.
It's even
Uh,
worse when you do a running differential image.
yeah. But
Normally, this is the easiest way to see, and then
there's a few frames though where you're like, okay, this is I can see where there's either like asymmetric halo. Um,
ironically, I want to say C2 cam was easier to see this come
yeah.
out.
And this is
Oh,
where SWPC Space Weather Prediction Center is deriving the G2 watch from because this is a pretty wide eruption. It's like, yeah, it's pretty intense.
lower the lights and increase shadow.
Yeah, I don't envy their jobs sometimes, especially
No.
when they
Now, I
have.
did see two different reporters as well, Star being one of them, saying this was just a partial halo. They still gave it, I want to say, like 280 or 290 degrees, so it was
Right,
close
yeah.
enough. But I, there's a view you can set Glasgow into, and I haven't been able to find it that shows the halo a little bit more. My assumption is that it's the shock. I'm not confident we're going to see a core from this. In fact, I would not be too confident in actually seeing much at all from this. But if we were to see something, I can't imagine we would hit G2 levels or even good mid-latitude aurora from this as much as my guess. It's
Yeah.
probably going to be a 2 to 6 hour event at best from there,
And
if
so
I'm guessing.
the timing's gonna be critical, and the probably like we've been seeing with a lot of these glancing blow type events, is the best aurora is during the shock of it, because we're not seeing the bulk of it. The bulk of it is west of the planet, um, but the shocks can drive quite a bit. So for this type of event, we're gonna want that shock to happen when it's dark.
Which we have not been lucky with, I think, for quite a while. I can't remember a see me arrival at night for the
Yeah,
US.
it's always been during the day, and then we've just had to hope that the CME core is the right magnetic configuration, which it was on May 10th.
Yeah, we just got lucky for that one. Oh, not core
Yeah,
two.
but there, so yeah, that's where the G2 is coming from, is because this is a wide shock at least. So I imagine we're gonna see something at least in the shock from it. But as far as
Okay.
the timing goes, I think do we have? Well, I'm sure you'll have the end low
Got it
up.
pulling up now.
But, I think it's like what, did they have it midday on the 10th?
Yeah, theirs is a little later. I think they have
Okay.
their speed going slower. Let's see.
So,
I
like,
need to do
evening.
the 681.
So these end diagrams, these are when they run the CME parameters through and we get like a sort of a prediction. And they each one is run a little differently. NASA's run a little different than NOAA's, which is why you see a little discrepancy between the two, because they have different goals in mind. So the way they handle the solar wind is a little different between the two, but they're relatively similar.
Actually, the cone, it's not in that.
Yeah, I didn't see it
Ah,
in.
there we go.
Okay, yeah.
Well, no, that was an east. Oh, that's from April.
I find that sometimes this site, like it gets hard to get the right like the date to come up.
I wonder
Like
if it saves your place from where you were, because I think I looked at that date last time.
'cause I've messed with it a few times, and then like keeps going back to like April, and I'm
Oh,
like,
no, I guess not.
well, you got if this doesn't work, just bring up NOAAs because I think that one is up and about. Yeah, I have the issues with the that particular the integrated space weather analysis.
It's not the most intuitive I found. Yeah, it's decently difficult, and that's when it works.
Yeah, but
But
this
yeah, at least we've got NOAA's, so we can count on that one.
so we should do the
Good.
we should pull the inner Tamitha here. We were looking at what the sun and the earth from looking down at it.
I mean, that's the way the only way I know how to explain it at this point too. You've got,
Yeah.
you're looking down at the solar system from way above, and then here
Yep.
you're on the side where you've got the Earth's North Pole and the Earth's South Pole looking at it, and the sun's over here. So you get
Yep.
it's just technically an XY plane here, and then the YZ plane here.
Yeah, so you can look at it at
Or no,
the
that's the XZ plane in this case,
so you can look at the plasma coming through from different angles. So they
but
have it
this
on
about 600 UT is what I'd say the impact time would be about.
okay, which is later.
Honestly, a lot of them, if we're looking at another one I like going to, the CME scoreboard, because of course then you get more averages going there.
Yeah, yeah.
And there was a lot. I think there were 8 different reports put in for this one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Oh, I'm going to say that only the ones with any predictions are going to be there. But the arrival times are really decently within, I would say, 6 to 8 hours of each other, which,
Yeah.
granted, the aero times are 7 hours plus on some of these. Average time ultimately comes to about 900 UT.
Okay.
So the idea being it's at least set up for early morning, and I mean like right at sunrise or astronomical twilight start for the US at least
Which
on
yep,
tomorrow.
isn't gonna help us at all. But
But you got a plus 7 hour or minus 7 hour window, which,
yeah,
as always, we don't really have ideas as to when this is going to be showing up.
it's predictions, predictions.
Oh,
That's what
Steve said May 10th he was seeing Aurora before Astro Twilight even started. Same, Steve. On that note, I have in Ohio too, 40 degrees. It was 9:40 something, I want to say. So it was just about to start astronomical twilight, and I've got faint green bands that are probably 25 degrees above the horizon, I'd say.
you
And
know,
then as soon as Astro hit, it blew up.
you know how frustrating it was, like, because me and Sandkel were driving up and you were seeing Aurora and it wasn't dark yet.
So that's a first. I got to see it
Like
before you
it's
guys.
it's so crazy. Like it doesn't like even from here, like from Chicago to I don't know, Copper Harbor, which is 400 miles, but it doesn't seem like it's that much further north, but it is.
It is.
I was looking at webcams yesterday or Friday, like the Aurora webcams, and I'm looking outside and I'm looking at this webcam. I'm like, this is crazy. Like, like the how much more daylight they have, and it doesn't seem like it's that much further north. Um, yeah, so it's definitely a thing. And the other thing, and I'll bring this up because our friend Elizabeth brought this up. If you are up north or plan on chasing this, the bug situation in the Northwoods right now is atrocious. So be prepared for mosquitoes, black flies, ticks, all the smorgasbord of all of them. There's my
Ugh.
PS.
I am thankful slightly that I'm not up in the
Yeah.
higher latitudes in the
Mhm.
summertime.
I will be probably like you, I will be chasing this from the house. I don't plan on going anywhere.
Nah.
So we'll just be monitoring the data. But yeah.
My hopes aren't very high. I really, if you're on the north border of the U.S., Canada, I'd keep an eye out. You're likely going to get something either on the horizon or maybe slightly higher in the sky, but I wouldn't count on like an all sky view or too much after that. Could be wrong, but glancing blow plus a lower energy flare plus a not great hit. I mean, there's a lot of factors going against any good shows for me from this.
Yeah, and then and it also, from what I've been seeing, online and stuff, it says everybody wants to equate it to this May 10th event, and And once you see something like that, it's hard to not,
Hard to give it up.
compare the two. And so we want to try to tamp the expectations down. Like this is more like an upper Midwest type. Like if you're up there, definitely be on the lookout. It's not something that I would personally travel a long time for. I would just wait for the next more direct hit. So that's there's my um 2 cents in that.
I'm in full agreement with that as well. It'll likely be something good if you're already up north, but it might not be worth traveling for and will likely be short. And who knows, it could even hit during the day and disappear before it gets too much into the night, like
Yeah,
it has been over the last several months.
yeah. So that
It
makes,
says like an anti-aurora shield over it or something. I don't know.
I know, but I mean, we still have lots of Solar Max left to go, so I'm not like, people get all disappointed, like even with this event, they're like, well, why wasn't this like 2 days ago? I was like, you know what? We still have a good couple years, really, of this elevated activity. So I'm like, there's gonna be more. It's fine. This particular solar cycle is outpacing 24. Um, is it? Is it gonna get close to anything like 23? I don't know. I've heard many people say not likely, but maybe the next cycle. But still, the fact that it's outpacing 24 is good for us, like, because 24 was nothing. And we already got one G5 out of it, so hopefully we'll get another one. Just gotta be patient. Be patient.
Let's see. I'm glad you mentioned the solar cycle because I actually have a post I'm going to share here in just a second. As long as I can find the tweet that it came from, it was the Met Office. Okay, cool.
Yeah. Yeah, because
So,
they're,
May of 2024, I would say would be a good final comment to make.
yes.
I can type right. Oh, that's right. The search function on here is not that great.
Yeah, you're better at I make a post on Twitter and then I forget about it for like a month and then I go back. So you're better at it than me.
There we go. So the May of 2024 numbers are the highest in, well, longer actually than the geomagnetic storm we had. September of 2002. May goes down with I think it was 200. Let's see.
Yeah, it was over 200, I thought.
That sounds right.
Do-do-do-do-do.
What's
Yeah,
the
200 because
monthly mean? I can never tell through actually these ones here.
observed
Kinda-
somewhat. Yeah.
No, that's actually a pretty good comparison in that case.
Yeah. So you can
But that spot right there. So I want to say 265, it looks like.
then look at solar cycle 23. Look at
Yeah, we got, yeah, 23 was
that.
nowhere. I mean, we're still not very close to that. Now, I also want to point out something too. So the Macintosh estimation that was given on here,
Mhm.
um, it's been fun following this. So there was a paper out quite a while back, and this is, I think I told you quite a bit about it, but for the people that don't know, Scott McIntosh used a new method looking at the bright points, which are just these tiny little coronal bright points, literally, in the quiet sun when it's minimum, and they're able to find a correlation between a few different events and how big a solar cycle can be. So it's a kind of a different way of prediction from what we've had before. He predicted a fairly big max. I think about 170 was the average, if I'm not mistaken, within one sigma. It was like 190 to 150.
It looks that
It's
way.
performing pretty well though.
Yeah,
So,
if you compare it to what the NOAA prediction was and what his prediction was,
oh
there's
yeah,
that's a
let's look
big
at that.
difference. That is a big
We got
difference.
the cyan line was their first initial prediction, which was already outpaced as of what pretty early on, almost
Yeah.
immediately it looks like.
I
And
think
then it
that
took a drastic course in 2022 rather.
yeah, that's when they realized, uh-oh.
Now they have since restated their cycle as well. They've looked at things and tried to figure things out a little bit more. So this, I'd say the blue and the cyan line here are completely irrelevant anymore.
Yeah.
But checking out the red line is the estimation for the Macintosh formation. So what that's going to end up being. And it's getting there.
Yeah.
We would still need, I think, let's see, do we have a smooth sunspot number on here yet? No, we don't. So I need a smooth sunspot number first. I don't actually have that number, but it could very well be within the 1 sigma value of this by the time we get to this next peak. We do have one peak already in cycle 25. It has decreased slightly. It's almost guaranteed at this point. We're going to have an increase to another peak. So we're still in that increase. So it's theoretical it could get a bit higher.
Yeah, and that's the other fun thing is these double peaked solar cycles tend to be a little more energetic, and the odd ones. So we have some things going for us.
Yeah, I wonder what that deal is too. That's a very specific, every odd solar cycle is generally
Yeah.
more powerful.
Yeah, every odd, and it's like it's weird. That one I don't know. I know like the double peak is because with the that's the hemispheres being out of sync.
Correct. Hmm.
So that is so then you get more of these like what we had with that last sunspot where they're just very twisty in their magnetic complexity and very angry. Uh, so yeah, that's it bodes in our favor for Aurora chasers. I mean, obviously there's a lot of implication, or I can't talk today. The fact that we have all these satellites in space now, and we're so dependent on a lot of things, um, that can become an issue if we get a lot of these geomagnetic storms and radiation storms and stuff like that. And I don't, so we'll see how well our infrastructure up there can handle it. I think the grid, I think they're pretty good. They've kind of figured out some things over the years. So I think our electrical grid will probably be fine. It's the satellites and the things up there, the reliance on drones, ADS-B and airplanes, like all this like heavy GPS um reliance is what I'm more concerned about.
I haven't heard of any issues with power grids, even up in like Canada from the
Yeah,
May event. So I'm assuming it wasn't as terrible. Then again, it still pales in comparison to 1989 or Carrington or anything like that. So
yeah.
I want to
So
make one more point because I think we might be running close on time.
yeah, go for it.
Cycle 24. So going back to the double peak, cycle 24 was a perfect example of that. The gap in between the northern hemisphere peak and the southern hemisphere peak was almost literally 2 years. And
Yeah,
it's very clear. The purple line here is the smooth number, so that's what's actually looked at. And it was one peak here, and then it decreased quite a bit, and then it was a bigger peak here, which was the southern hemisphere. It's likely going to be something similar. So we had a peak right about here in June of last year. There was a very small decrease, and then it's now been increasing again.
yeah,
And oh, there we go. 171 was the ultimate May value for average, at least, which was the highest at least since, well, pretty far back.
yeah.
So 23. And then
Yeah,
they look pretty small next to 23.
that 23. Look at that 23. That was a good one. And I wasn't into any of this stuff back then. Go figure.
Yeah, I was too young at that point. 2003, I saw them for the first time, and then 2012 is when I started getting into the solar, well, space weather field in general. So
Yeah,
I got to
right,
see all
right,
of cycle 24.
right in the most boring cycle of a long time.
It was a good opportunity for learning times at
Oh
least.
yeah,
I
yeah.
figured out a lot just without having any real good storms or data to look at. There was, minor X flares, then nothing giant either. It was a
Mm,
good starter cycle. I'm glad that this one's better though.
yeah, this one's more entertaining. So yeah. So there's our little, I guess that just about, is there anything else you wanted to talk about?
I'm good
I
personally.
think
I think that's everything I was thinking of.
I think we covered it all. We did what did we ever so it was the event on Friday, the flare, and then the forecast.
Yep.
Yeah. So anyway, for those still here, thanks for watching. And if there's any questions, I'll go back and answer them if we didn't address to them.
I'll at
And
least address one. Christy
yeah.
mentioned that this should get set up as like a regular thing. This is our test as of
Yeah.
now, so you guys are kind of guinea pigs at this point. Mary Beth does plan on doing this quite a bit more often. I'm also getting a Patreon set up where I plan on doing mini lectures over just different variety of solar activity and geomagnetic activity. I'm hoping to have that by next week and to start merging all of that together, but you can expect to see a bit more from us over the next
Yeah,
several months.
absolutely. And like I want to figure out where I can share it to the, like an actual page and not my personal Facebook page. But so we have some technical things to figure out. But yeah, that's I talked to him about, I don't know, what was it, 3 months ago? I think
I want to say it was closer
floated the
to like
idea.
the
I was like, we should do some sort of podcast, and then life happened, and I just forgot about it. And then yesterday, yeah, last night I was like, hey, let's do a Facebook Live.
cool, let's start tomorrow. Yeah,
Yeah,
that was a
and
pretty
not
spontaneous
knowing
thing.
how to do any of this stuff. I've never done a live stream before. I don't know anything about all this technology stuff, like, because I'm old now, and yeah, I got to figure it out. So yes, hopefully we'll make it a regular thing, and then you guys can ask questions, and hopefully I'll have like a dual monitor set up so we can do it in real time. So you guys, thanks for being here on our our experimentation.
Has been quite fun. I haven't been able to see who's been watching specifically, but we've got several comments at least. Thank you everybody for
Yes.
viewing us.
Yeah, so we'll be back for sure. And if there's anything big that happens, we'll try to hop on more immediate instead of like doing like a weekly type thing.
Yeah,
So
we can do that, or at least rely on the spontaneity of it.
yeah,
I'm down for that.
yeah, it's easy once you get Zoom figured out. So yeah. Anyway,
If
thank you guys.
everyone
So
enjoy your weekend. Hopefully we get some Aurora.
yeah, happy chasing. All right. I will, let's see.
All right, stream has ended.
I think
Yep,
so. Did it end on that?
it ended on my side.
Okay, we're good then. And look at that, 152.
Yeah, that was
So
perfect.
that's actually a pretty good time, pretty good time. Like we were a little bit late, and I think because I was trying to figure out because I think like that 40, I don't know, it seems like that 30-40 minute mark is where people can like they
Kind of
tolerate it.
pitch out.
Yeah, and then like after an hour it gets kind of much. So that worked out. That worked out. Now I just got to figure out the rest of this technology thing, and then I'm gonna stop